So we're going to continue that this week. And last week, we kind of ended on talking about bees, and then we painted a bee. So this week, we're going to focus on butterflies. So we're going to just do a quick review of what we learned last week, and then get into the new content. And then it'll be a good day. We have some cool videos to watch too. So Q&A, what is pollination? Do you guys remember what pollination is?
Is it from flower to flower?
Say it again.
Flower to flower.
Yes, it's when we move pollen from flower to flower, right?
Right.
And what are pollinators?
Pollinators are
Yep. So pollinators are the insects and animals that move the pollen from plant to plant, right?
plants. Right.
So can someone read this definition for me? What is pollination? Can someone read that for me?
Yes.
I cannot see that, Danny.
Oh, that's why they call the competencies.
Pollination is the act of transferring pollen from the male flower to the female.
Good job. And then we have the male part of the flower is called the what, Michael? Can you read that?
Anther.
And the female part?
Stigma.
Stigma. Good job. What are pollinators?
Oh my God.
Michael, do you want to read this one too? You're such a great reader.
Yes.
It's supposed to pay you for knowledge too.
Pollinator is anything that helps carry pollen from the male part of the flower to the female part of the flower. Or insects that transfer pollen from plant to plant. Pollinators.
Exactly. So that is what a pollinator is. It's the animals or insects that carry pollen from plant to plant. And we talked about, remember too, that there's other things that can transfer pollen from plant to plant. It doesn't have to be an animal or an insect. It can be the wind. It could be rain. Anything else you guys can think of?
Bumblebees.
Bumblebee.
Chirp, chirp.
Ant. What's
An ant?
An ant, maybe.
hey? What's the
What about a bird?
what? Yes.
Yeah, and even more specifically, what about a hummingbird?
Hamburger.
Mhm.
What's the
Why do bees and butterflies and birds, why do they land on flowers?
Honey.
honey?
Close.
Honey.
So what if it's not a bee? What if it's a butterfly? Why do butterflies land on flowers?
Because I ate eggs.
They gotta eat, right?
Yes.
Yeah, all living creatures gotta eat.
For the star.
Exactly. So they're going there to get food. And this is what's
Yeah.
so cool about, how all living things interact with each other, because bees and birds and butterflies, they're not trying to pollinate the flowers. They're just trying to get their food and go on their merry way, right?
Yes.
So they land on the flowers, they get their food, and in turn, they get pollen on their little wings, on their little hands and feet. And then when they go to the next flower, the next plant, they transfer that pollen, and that's how pollination occurs.
Yeah.
Did you guys see how there was a baby underneath of her, a baby underneath her wing? So the last thing that we saw
It's
was
good.
a butterfly. You guys still see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Specifically, we are going to be talking about monarch butterflies. So a monarch is this picture right here. They have a scientific name, all animals and insects do, which is kind of hard to pronounce. I'm going to give someone brownie points if they want to try to pronounce that. Danus plexipus, I believe. They belong to the invertebrate class, which means that they have a spine. So
Yes.
even though they're little buggies, they do have spines. And then they are herbivores. Butterflies, the monarch butterfly, their group name is flutter. And their average lifespan is 6 to 8 months. So that's pretty short. And their wingspan is 3.7 to 4.1 inches. So when we think about it, that's probably about the width of my hand. So from wing to wing, if they're all spread out. So, and these guys can get pretty big.
Yeah.
About the size of a teacup, and they weigh 0.0095 to 0.026 ounces. So they don't even weigh an ounce. They don't even weigh half an ounce. They're so light, but they have to, right? That's how they fly.
Yes.
What do monarch butterflies look like? And I know we just saw some pictures, but let's try to imagine it. So we're gonna do a little sensory activity. So close your eyes and imagine you're sitting in a bright green garden underneath of a clear blue sky. Flowers are planted all around you, colors like yellow, pink, purple, and all shades of orange. In the distance, you hear birds chirping and playing in a bird bath. You open your eyes slightly and see that the birds chirping are a family of cardinals, bright red and dancing together in the bird bath. You look directly in front of you and see a monarch butterfly fluttering by a sunflower. All right, now I want everyone to open your eyes and then tell me what you saw.
So flat around.
Orange and black.
Orange and black, exactly. And Charlie, you imagined that it was flying all around you, right?
Yes.
Great. And then monarchs are so important, and we're gonna learn why. So just like what we learned today and last week, monarch butterflies are pollinators, and monarchs forage for nectar or pollen. They can unintentionally move pollen between and within flowers. This movement of pollen helps flowering plants make seeds, which can eventually disperse and grow into more plants. Seed and fruits produced as a result of successful pollination can feed other organisms. Monarch butterflies and pollination services they provide contribute to sustainability of entire ecosystems. And when a plant is going through pollination, that means that it basically, we kind of learned this last time, it basically makes a baby, so it makes a seed, which makes more plants grow, but also it can make the plant grow fruits or vegetables. And then fruits and vegetables get eaten by who?
Us.
Us, exactly. They're eaten by us and other animals, exactly. So in turn, if we didn't have butterflies, we
Right.
probably wouldn't have any fruits or vegetables to eat,
True.
right? So that's why
Right.
it's so important. We help to try to protect these animals, because no matter how small an animal is, it has a role in our ecosystem, right? A fun fact, caterpillars, they only eat from one plant. Does anyone know what that is?
A leaf.
A leaf, what kind? It's a certain type of plant.
Flower.
It's milkweed.
Milkweed.
Yes.
Milkweed.
Yep, exactly. So milkweed is the only plant that monarch caterpillars can eat. And it's actually super cool because milkweed is actually a little toxic. It's a little poisonous, but monarch caterpillars have developed and adapted over time so that they can eat this plant and still be okay. So why are monarchs in decline? So the Western monarch population has declined over 99% since the 1980s. And Eastern populations are estimated to have declined more than 80%. Can you believe that, guys?
No.
99% and 80%. That is crazy. So let's take a look at why. So one of the reasons is habitat loss. So human development has decreased the availability of milkweed and plants utilized for nectar. Development has reduced breeding ground space and forest cover in overwintering areas. So this means that, the more that we as humans are building and growing and knocking down forests and kind of industrializing our area, the less habitat the butterfly will have to live, right? And they need a specific plant. So they need milkweed to reproduce and eat. Pesticide use. So that's number 2. Pesticides can harm, and you guys know what pesticides are?
No.
So pesticides are basically poison that you use to kill weeds. So say if you have all these weeds in your front yard and you don't feel like picking them and weeding them, you just spray them with poison so it kills them. But then that poison doesn't just go away. That poison stays around, right? And then it leaks and it can go into runoff and go into our water, but it can also stay on the area around it so that when bugs land on that plant that has the poison on it, it dies.
Yeah.
So climate change. So increasing seasonal temperatures have the potential to move areas where breeding and overwintering occurs. So how can we help? So we can reduce or eliminate pesticide use. Plant milkweed and nectar resource plants. We actually have a whole garden of milkweed at the farm for this exact reason. And when it gets, a little closer to summertime, we actually see a bunch of these little caterpillars everywhere. So this is just kind of a, just so you guys can see what the life cycle looks like in person. This is a milkweed plant. So it's super tall and it has these pretty flowers. So it's perfect for the butterflies because when they are caterpillars, they can eat the leaves. When they're butterflies, they can eat the nectar. Did you guys see that? So that was the first meal of the caterpillar. So the caterpillar breaks open, and its first meal is eating the egg that it just hatched from. Now it's moved on to eating the milkweed leaf until it gets bigger. Caterpillar molts, which means it sheds its skin so it can grow bigger. And I guess it eats its skin. That's kind of gross, but